Yo, what is going on, everybody? We are going to be doing the world's fastest breakdown of UFC Paris. It is basically a Cage Warriors card, so we're kind of going to go through our favorite fights, props, predictions, parlays, wherever we find some spots that we may want to target. Because overall, there's a lot of debuting fighters on this card, a lot of names that you guys may or may not be aware of. So we're going to talk about the names that you guys probably do know. We have Sergey Spivak taking on Cyril Gane, and I'm going to be bringing in Finesse the Books to be discussing this fight card. So without further ado, here is Finesse. Finesse, how are you doing, my guy?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. Like you said, not the most name value on the card, but it should be a good card. I'm expecting a bunch of finishes, so got some angles I'm looking to attack, and like always, let's make some money and talk some fights.
Yeah, man. I think that overall, so while the name value lacks, I think that the actual matchmaking is pretty legit. One of the fighters on this card that I'm looking forward to the most, he's not debuting, but it's Benoit Saint Denis. I want to see how he performs against another grappler in Thiago Moises. So that's one of the more exciting ones. Another fight that we have listed on the card that we may or may not get to. Actually, no, we'll probably get to it. We got Bogdan Guskov taking on Volkan Ozdemir. Now, with that fight, I almost feel like, so if you guys know a thing or two about Dominance MMA, they basically get favors from from the UFC. Ali Abdelaziz gets 20% of fighters' pay, so he's able to work in these short notice replacements, and he just basically has a hand in the game. So he gets this. His fighter actually gets a ranked opponent right off the bat in Volkan Ozdemir. So I don't want to say it's like a setup fight, but it's one of those fights where no matter who you play, you're fading the other fighter. And for me, I'm okay uh, going against the juice. So we'll get to that segment. But as starting it out, was there a fight on the prelim card that you would are interested in targeting?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be the Basharat fight. It has to be. Obviously, heavy juice, right? Minus 350, minus 340, on most books around that range, but I love this guy. He is an absolute stud. He's fighting Clayton Rodriguez, who I think is pretty good too. It's just a terrible spot for him. Kind of comparing these guys. Obviously, Clayton fought on Contender Series. One got his contract there. That was against Curatolo, and he was able to do what he wants to do. Right, pressure fighters, get in their face, and right from the jump, right, Curatolo was on the back foot and kind of defensive the whole fight. So he was still able to land shots, land some takedowns on Clayton. Then he makes his debut versus CJ Vergara and loses split decision. Whether you think he won, lost, doesn't really matter. Took the L versus split decision, and Vergara was the exact opposite of Curatolo, right? In his face, right away, on the front foot, pressuring him. And we saw Rodriguez Clayton kind of break in that fight. Got winded through the second round, was on his back foot a lot. Obviously, he's landed shots, but got controlled on the ground. I think it was the second round for almost 3.5, 4 minutes. CJ was able to control him. And then the Shannon Ross fight, not even worth mentioning. Shannon Ross is still in the UFC somehow, I believe, but absolute glass chin, gets rocked and finished almost all of his fights. On the other side, Basharat, I'm super excited about this guy. I think he has championship trajectory. I think he's going to be ranked in no time. I love what I see. Elite distance management, elite striking. The calf kicks, the body kicks, the head kicks. His distance management and range is so pretty to watch. Moving kind of just out of shots. Very accurate too, striking, moving backwards. Elite ground game. We've seen him control guys on a mat. Speaking of UFC debuts, he debuted versus Damon Blackshear, and that man is a fucking monster. Lives up to that nickname, and won that fight, right? And took a lot of people's bread in that fight. So I love Basharat in this matchup. Obviously, I'm going to look for him I'm going to look to parlay him with something, but I think he breaks Clayton. I really do. I think he finishes in round 2 or 3. Just better everywhere. He's going to be in his face. He's one of those guys that gives you absolutely no breaks. If he's moving backwards and kind of defending shots, he's right back in your face. We see a lot of guys try to take time and get a breath, but he's always in your face. Elite striking, elite ground game. I think he's better everywhere, and just a really tough spot for Clayton. Obviously, moving up a weight, forced to miss weight a couple times. He's up a weight, making the trip over to Europe to fight in Paris. So I think this is a really bad spot for him. Basharat, I'm looking to make a lot of money off for the next couple of years, and I think he's a real problem in a bantamweight division. So I like Basharat.
Yeah. So to touch on that, initially I was thinking Kletzen Rodriguez is kind of a live dog because when I first look at fights, I always look at the price tag next to the fighter that I'm interested in backing. The reason why I laid off and kind of considered Fareed Basharat as a parlay piece, and I'm not much of a parlayer, but I think that he can fit the script for certain parlays. I think that this is almost it's a bad stylistic fight for Kletzen Rodriguez. Rodriguez, if you've watched some of his fights, he can gas out. He actually gave up that third round to CJ Vergara. And I'm not even trying to talk mess about CJ, but CJ's not, I don't know if he's really even fit for the UFC. I think that he's had favorable matchups. He's really exciting. He's a dog, but just the look overall just didn't really sit right with me. He was a big favorite in that spot as well. Guy misses weight like crazy. Now he's coming up to bantamweight, which is probably his true weight class. But regardless, I almost feel like this is pretty much a favor for the UFC, and they want one of these guys to win, and I don't think it's Kletzen. So I'm pretty much with you in that spot, and I do think that if there is a fighter in this bout that looks their price tag and then some, it's probably Fareed Basharat. So I mean, there could even be an argument that he's discounted because I'm right there with you. I think that he does find the finish. A prop I was looking at for this fight was actually ends via submission. I think that Fareed Basharat just kind of touches him up, wears him down, and in round 3 probably locks up a submission. So not probably, but based on the number, I'll probably end up getting there. So,
Yep.
So for my prelim fight that I wanted to go over, I really like Reese McKee taking on Angelusa. I think that's going to be a great scrap. I think both guys actually have a promising future, to be honest. I mean, both of them are really young. Actually, Reese McKee's a little bit younger. The guy debuted and he loses to Khamzat Chimaev in the UFC. So, I mean, that's a really tough ask. And then he fights Alex Morono. He loses via decision and goes on to Cage Warriors. Guys put on, 3 straight wins, and I think he was even the champ as well. So, I mean, he has that 5-round experience. Not that he needs all 5 rounds here, but I'm saying that he's been in big moments before. Angelusa, this is the guy who he's also kind of, taken killer's road to get to the UFC. He ends up fighting Jack Della Maddalena on the Contender Series. That's a tough ask for anybody, but if you rewatch that fight, he made a good account of himself. And he had a great head and arm choke as well on Jack. What I've learned about Jack, you can't submit this guy. We've seen him in compromised positions before, but he just does not tap. But Angelusa, I mean, a regular fighter would have probably tapped to that. So love that scrap by him. And then, he fights AJ Fletcher as well. That was a good win. He lost to Munir Lazez, but we kind of know what Lazez brings to the table. He's a long, rangy kickboxer who, I mean, that's what he's going to do. And I think Lusa was a little bit out of his, ballpark in that fight. Styles make fights. I think that this, stylistically speaking, should be a much closer fight than what it's aligned. So for those reasons, I like the underdog here because if you're hanging plus 150 in my face on a fight that I'm assuming should be minus 110, I will take the underdog 100% of the time. Now, Angelusa, he is training, at a good camp in Killcliff FC. So his striking is coming together. He probably has some wrestling upside. He also is quite durable as well. I mean, we've seen him eat a lot of shots. So, I mean, that's promising as well. But the thing is Reese McKee, he's not having to fly all those or, travel so far. Angelusa, he's coming in from Florida. So jet lag is going to be a bitch for him. Reese McKee had maybe a couple hour flight. Reese McKee is just, I think he's a little bit more prepared for the moment. And again, no matter who loses this fight, I think both of them come back for another fight in the UFC. I don't think that it's like walking paper time for either of them. So I don't know, man. I think you're hanging a plus money tag on the fighter that I think has upside, especially at 27 years old. I'm going to back that fighter 100% of the time. So that's the prelim fight I'm looking forward to the most. But it's probably one of the more recognizable fights on the prelims as well with actual name value. So,
Yep.
All right, we're going to move on to the main card. Now, one of the fights that we kind of broke down just very lightly was Volkan Ozdemir and Bogdan Guskov. I don't know if you had a take here or if you had an opinion on this fight at all. Um, but I'm gonna go ahead and start because I kind of do, and I think that in this fight, you have Volkan Ozdemir, who's a really credentialed kickboxer. The guy has nice striking, but I think that his power is overrated. I think that we've used the name No Time Ozdemir, and it's pretty much expired at this point. The guys look slow and sluggish, and especially in his last fight against Paul Craig. Or I don't know if that was his last fight or not, but in that fight, nonetheless, he looked like really sluggish. He did not look like himself out there. He loses that decision to Nikita Krylov, and Krylov, what we know about him is the guy gasses out. Guy goes balls to the wall in the first 2 rounds. So that look already is just a little bit questionable. Now, I know the name value is on his side. Like, those are tough names to actually fight and, actually look good against. So I'm going to give him credit there. And again, I mentioned this earlier, like, no matter who you play, it's more of a fate on the other fighter. But if you're giving me a number where I feel like the fate is already tied into the name, I'm already going to choose one of the sides. And I've already gone with Bogdan Guskov because at minus 200 and climbing on the Volkan side, I don't know if I can, get there or trust him. Like I said, a little bit slowish, a little bit hesitant. He's turned more into a counter boxer rather than a pressure forward fighter. The Yuri Prohaska knockout kind of changed a little bit of his trajectory in the division. The guy, he's lost 3 of his last 4 fights. So I don't know, man. Again, this is a favor by the UFC. This is Ali Abdelaziz right here and Bogdan Guskov, where they're giving him a ranked fighter to debut with. And he's got some good striking. What I don't like is his striking defense. I think that he can get touched up, but I think as long as you're applying the pressure on Volkan, I think he's a breakable fighter. And I just like the new names in the division, man. Light heavyweight is just really shallow. And even before Bogdan was on the card, he was supposed to fight Azamat Mirzakhanov. Now, that guy is an absolute monster. That fight wasn't going to end very well, in my opinion, for Volkan. So this is almost a similar style matchup where, Guskov he hits just as hard, in my opinion, as Azamat. But it remains to be seen. I'm not going to be shocked if Volkan goes out there, lights him up in the first round. But at underdog odds and just a little bit of a tax paying the Volkan price, I mean, I'm not with it. So for all those reasons, I think that this is a good spot, a good debut for Guskov to kind of get his feet wet. But again, just like last week, me picking, I forgot who it was, but I picked some underdog on the card. I'm okay looking like a jackass and I'm okay looking like a genius. And this is my jackass or genius spot. So I'm all right with both, man. Did you have any opinions on this fight?
Yeah, opinions, no action, unfortunately. I mean, I know some people that got in early on Ozdemir at a much, much friendlier number. So, they did their job. And I think that's a much better bet than betting Ozdemir or putting in at the current price or putting him in a parlay. I hate that, as a leg in a parlay. I absolutely hate that. But yeah, just too many red flags for both sides. Ozdemir, like you said, I think you laid it out perfectly. Only 33, but, he's fighting like he's 40 right now. I've hated what I've seen. Paul Craig was even lighting him up on the feet, and that is the worst look ever. If Paul Craig is lighting you up, and he's now at middleweight, so even a worse look for me. Like you said, lost to Krylov, who was a gasser, and I just don't like it. People are pointing to his level of competition and who he's fought. He's fought the who's who, which is great. But I think his time has come and gone. I'm not interested in backing him. His chin extreme worries me a lot. Like you said, his timidity that he's fighting with over his last couple fights is not what I like to see. And on the other side, Guskov 14-2, like you said, dominant MMA guy. But I'll give you $1 if you could, if anybody watching could tell me who he's fought. One guy, just one guy that he's fought that him and watched him fight before. Absolute nobody's. Guskov chin is a really scary thing for me, right? So is Doga passing the situation like you were saying? I'm not backing Ozdemir, especially at this price. I could see either guy finishing either guy in round 1. Guskov's chin is from the tape that I've watched, which is minimal. I've watched his last couple of fights. He's getting hurt and dropped with jabs and shit like that and straight punches and just not a good look. So I hate this fight from a betting perspective. It's dog or pass for me, but I won't put any of my money on this fight.
Yeah, that's fair, man. And again, I'm all right looking like a jackass and genius. I've done it many times and I'm okay living with the result. There's certain fighters that I think should be a minus 200 favorite and some that just should never be. And until, Vulcan, shows me otherwise, I mean, I just can't get there. And let's not forget, Paul Craig moved down to middleweight. It's just not aging well for me. Um, but I mean, we're not going to spend too much time on that fight. The next fight that we have, Benoit Saint Denis taking on Thiago Moises. Do you have an opinion on this fight?
Yeah, so I got in on BSD early in the week. I got him at minus 130. Sitting minus 160, minus 165 there. I wouldn't, to be honest, I wouldn't get in at that price. I think this is, I think that price is a little inflated. I'm not a huge fan of putting BSD in a parlay, but this is going to be a great fight. I don't blame people taking, Moises at the plus 140, plus 150 that he's at now. And I can see it. I think this is a close fight, but I just favor BSD at that price that I got, that minus 130 price. I really favor him there. I think he has the advantages in a lot of different areas. Obviously, grappler versus grappler, but BSD has power in his hands. I think we're going to get more value from him. I think he's going to be the one pushing forward. Thiago's definitely dangerous. Like I said, like I said before, he's fought the who's who as well in the division. I just favor, like I said, I favor BSD in almost every aspect of this fight. Moises obviously 8 subs in his career. I think he's live for a sub, especially in those scramble situations that we're expecting, grappler versus grappler. But yeah, I just like what I've seen from BSD, 11-1, fighting it at home, which again can put negative pressure on a fighter, right? If you got friends and family there, if you're fighting at home, so that's a little bit of a worry. But BSD is an absolute savage. So I love the durability, I like the pressure, I like the volume, and for those reasons, I'm in, and I placed him early in the week at minus 130. So I think BSD wins this fight. I think he can finish. I think he win a decision, which is what I want. Went back in a favorite at this price. So I like BSD in this fight.
Yeah, so I love that we align on this fight. I'm right there with you. I'm predicting BSD to win. I just did my prediction sheet right now. I think Saint Denis probably gets a KO in round 1. Again, the chances of that happening are, probably pretty slim, but I just see a lot more dog on one of these fighters and a lot more cat on the other side. Thiago Moises, this is a guy who, of course, Joel Alvarez came in like really fat that one fight that he ended up beating the shit out of Thiago, but it was just a bad look. Like overall, he looked scared to exchange in the pocket. He was on his back foot, which is just not normal of him. There's something about that fight that just sticks out that I feel like, other fighters can take advantage of. And I think, Benoit Saint Denis is one of those fighters. The guy's a dog, man, and he fights with heart. What I don't like is the market correction on the side of BSD. His last fight, he was plus 265 or something like that, something ridiculous. And now we're paying a premium to back him. At this stage, I think if you got in on the early number, you did your job. But at this stage, it's kind of closing into like tax territory. So I think where the current numbers are at, maybe dog or pass. But I'm just not in the camp of laying the dog odds on Thiago Moises with a lot of conviction, with so much comfort, because I think he's a breakable fighter, man. And even in his wins, I think he fought Bobby Green, and there was what I thought Bobby Green should have won. And then I don't know, his wins just don't age well to me. Alex Hernandez, I mean, that's cute. Giagos, I don't know how much longer he's going to stay in the UFC. Melt Costa, I think that win will end up aging pretty well. I think Melt Costa is gonna, he's gonna be a promising fighter in the UFC, but he was a little bit younger, and that was his debuting fight against Thiago Moises. So I think that the guy has a lot of room to grow. I'm right there with you. I want to see what the Saint Denis KO1 prop pays, but I do think that if one of these fighters gets it done inside the distance, it's probably Saint Denis. I know that everybody is talking about the Thiago Moises grappling and his credentials. I just think that the strength on Saint Denis is just so much to handle, because we thought the same thing about Bonfim. He was supposed to be some spectacular grappler, but the guy got his back taken, and the choke wasn't even in. That was on his jaw. If you watch that fight, that's how strong this man squeezes. So, and then I don't want to, overrate that loss either to Zaleski because I believe that was up at welterweight and on short notice. It might have been a life changing beating, but since then the guy's just strung off 3 straight wins. So I don't know. I'm right there with you, man. I think that you did your part getting the early number. I think me looking at it earlier at those numbers, I was just a little bit confused. I wanted to see where the action went, and it went opposite of what I thought. So I'll probably just be
Yeah,
staying off. But
yeah, and real
um,
quick, right? We're saying overcorrection. I completely agree. At the minus 160, minus 170, I would not pay that. I wouldn't. I would stay off the money line. So just kind of looking at lines, BSD by points is plus 310 on FanDuel, or you take them inside the distance, which is, let me see what that is. Uh, plus 130 inside the distance. So I think you take some plus money stabs, like you said, the round one KO, maybe take round 2, 3 finish, something like that. I would look for plus money spots to back BSD, even if you're kind of double dipping, right? Taking them by points, taking them inside the distance props. I like that much better than having to pay minus 160, minus 170 for BSD. We think he wins the fight, but it's all about prices.
yeah, I agree 100% with that. I don't know why FightOdds.io is not working for me. I was trying to pull up that screen, but oh well. Moving on, it is going to be the co-main event. We got Manon Fior taking on Rose Namajunas. I want to hear your opinion on this fight first, and then I'll kind of submit my prediction and tapology.
Yeah, this one is really weird for me. So I'm probably not going to have any action in this fight. I know some guys that I really, really respect, especially when it comes to talking fights. They're on both sides. I know probably more on the Manon side rather than the Rose side. I just, when Rose is on, right, there's a lot of question marks with Rose. Obviously, who she's training with, her head trainer, her mindset, right, whether that's super, super positive or kind of getting in her head in some spots. Um, when Rose is on, she's one of the most talented fighters, men, women, division, period, in the UFC. You look at her resume. I mean, the Zhang Wei Li fight, right? How well is that? Talking about a fight aging well. Wei Li Zhang has taken some step backs, but obviously champion of the world, dominating some of the best women in the world. And that head kick was one of the best finishes that I've seen in my life. And then you get fights like the Esparza fight where nothing happened and it was the most boring championship fight probably ever. Um, yeah, so I just don't want to be caught, um, taking a shot on Manon. Not really taking a shot, right? You're paying Juice almost minus 200 to back Manon. I don't want to get caught with a Manon ticket in my pocket and fading Rose, and Rose comes out and looks like Rose, right? I would hate that. So um, Manon has some things that I think can do her really good in this fight. She's great. Her distance management, her movement around the cage is great. She's a great points fighter. Great kicks, great with her hands. But Rose is special, so I do not want to be caught fading Rose. And we'll see. I think this is just a kind of sit back, popcorn type of fight for me into the main event. I think both girls have advantages. I mean, you asked me 2 years ago, Rose versus anybody at plus 160. I'd probably say I'm backing Rose, but it's tough. I mean, she's been out for a while, coming off that stinker versus Sparza. Yeah, she's been out over a year, coming off that stinker. I just don't know. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this fight, and kind of kicking it back to you. But no, I'm just gonna sit and watch. No action in this fight.
Yeah, see, I wanted to get your opinion because I'm kind of in the boat that the only person who beats Rose beats Rose. Rose beats herself. She should have won that Carla fight. But she didn't go for it, man. So I mean, I'm not angry with the decision. It was a snoozer for sure, but she lost that fight herself. She beat herself in that fight. And she's going up in weight. She's taking on Manon, who's kind of on a tear, man. I went back and I watched that Caitlin Chukagian fight. Caitlin Chukagian at the time was ranked number 1, and she beat Caitlin Chukagian via unanimous decision. But I thought the fight was really close. I thought it could have gone either way. I was expecting a split decision, to be honest, when they were reading it off. When they said unanimous, I was like, oh, it's going to be Manon all day. But overall, I thought that the fight played out a lot closer than what her price tag indicated. Now, it's come down from that fight, but in the meantime, from that fight, the girl had knee surgery. She's 33 years old. She's, if you're trying to milk profits out of her, time is running a little thin. Rose Namajunas is actually the younger fighter. She's seen the top of the top already. Fights with Jessica Andrade. She's never lost to Wiley Zhang. I don't know, man. I'm under the conspiracy that she went up a weight class because they wanted to make Wiley Zhang versus Yan Xiaonan, and Dana just kind of convinced her to step out of the rankings. So she goes up to flyweight, and this is a great fight. I think stylistically, it's a pleasing fight. I love Manon's stance, but I don't think she's as fast as what the broadcast makes her out to be. I think what I like about Rose is her elusiveness. She's in, she's out. She has a nice jab. She can kick. And she's tricky. She's very untimed. If you watch her strikes, they're not predicted strikes. They're just kind of like, you don't, she doesn't traject anything. I kind of give her the grappling upside in this fight. I don't know if it's really going to hit the mat because I don't really rate Rose's takedowns, too significantly. And I think the striking is going to be pretty even. This is a fight that I'm just going to stay off and just watch, man. Initially looking at it, I was thinking, man, I want to be on Rose. I'm going to make my prediction right now on Tapology in front of everybody. I'm going to go with Manon Fior to get it done. And I don't know if it's going to be decision we'll go with decision. I think Rose is going to be hard to put out. I think it'll be a great fight, but I have to go with the upside and momentum. And I think the upside and momentum all day is with Manon. But I could be wrong, man. Rose is one of those fighters that if she pulls off an upset, it's never shocking. It's like, oh, well, I knew better from the get-go. But I don't know. I think that the UFC is running really thin on their time to actually milk the money out of Manon. So, but we'll see, man. I don't know who's more marketable because people really like Rose. I mean, I don't know. I think she's one of the more popular women's MMA fighters that there is in the UFC, and I don't know, man. But without talking too much about that fight, we have the main event, and I've seen a lot of division on this fight, and I'm gonna pull up a little banner because this one kind of represents you. Finesse, I heard you got a max play in the main event. Is this true? You might be on mute.
Yeah, I was muted. My bad. It is true. The rumors are true. Like you said, I'm seeing a lot of Spivak love. Right, I was seeing it earlier in the week. People jumping on some numbers that they thought were crazy. Right, getting plus 130, plus 140 on Spivak. I don't see it at all. So a lot of people kind of throw around units. I think we've talked about this before. A max play for me is 5 units, and that's a lot of fucking bread for me. So, I'm heavy on Gane this week. I got him at minus 165, like I said, for 5 units. I expect this to be a y'all must have forgot spot. We talk about that a lot. Let me ask you a question, right? What would you think this line would be if the John Jones fight never happened? Right, minus 250, minus 300, possibly, right?
I think so. I think you're right. Minus 235 on the sharper books.
Yeah, on a sharp side. Instead, he gets finishing under half a round versus John Jones, right? One of the probably the best fighter to ever step in the octagon. And now we're getting minus 165. I think that's crazy. Gane's lost 2 of his last three fights. But like I said, both L's coming to 2 of the best heavyweights in the world, in Francis Ngannou and John Jones. Also a highlight reel knockout of Ty. Nobody's talking about that. People are leaving that part out. Just a highlight reel devastating knockout of Ty Tuivasa, face planted him right in between those fights, those 2 L's. So, and in the Ngannou fight, it was a close fight, right? Came down to, in my mind, round 5, made some critical mistakes in that round, especially on the ground, going for that leg lock or whatever the fuck it was, and kind of giving up position. And it kind of came down to that. He survived the power and went toe-to-toe, one of the best heavyweights in the world. And then the Jones fight, like we said, finishes him under 2.5 rounds, lose to one of the best fighters ever, arguably the best fighter ever. I can give you a pass for that. I don't have any problem giving you a pass for that. And I've heard everybody who's on Spivak say he's going to wrestle. All he has to do is wrestle and he wins the fight. I don't think it's that easy. Gane's much more athletic, much faster, has shown takedown defense in his fights. We've seen that in the JDS fight, stuffing takedowns. We've seen that in the Dontel Mays fight, a fight in which Gane actually secured 3 takedowns and submitted Dontel Mays. So not the best quality of competition, obviously, but got the job done there. Gane, I also expect to be the stronger fighter in this matchup. You pair all of those things with Gane's obviously elite movement. Guy moves like a middleweight, elite movement, elite speed. I think it's going to make it extremely tough for Spivak to kind of track him down and catch him and find him. Spivak's been fighting a lot in the smaller cages. This is the bigger cage, making it even harder to track a guy like Gane down. I don't think it's going to be that easy. Gane is constantly active, especially with his kicks to all three levels. I think that's going to deter the wrestling and make it even harder to track Gane down too, using his kicks. And it's a 5-round fight. You're not going to tell me Gane gets taken down one time and he loses the fight. Every fight starts on the feet. And I think almost every minute that this fight is on the feet, Gane is going to win. Spivak has not looked good under pressure when he's getting touched. I don't like the way he's reacting. He's on a back foot plenty. We've seen that plenty of times in his fights. And this is going to be one of the toughest fights for Spivak. You look at his resume. I'm not impressed. I don't know if you're impressed. I am not impressed. Guys like Augusto Sakai, Greg Hardy, Kelly Olynyk, Bandera. That doesn't impress me. So some wins in there, some losses. We've seen him take steps up in competition before, and we've seen him get absolutely starched by Tom Aspinall, and we've seen him get 30-27 by Marcin Tybura, who's had a nice little run before getting also starched by Tom Aspinall. So I favor Gane's level of competition. Main event championship experience is on the side of Gane. He's also fought in Paris before, so we mentioned that. Obviously, the hometown guy, going to be the biggest hometown guy on the card. But he's fought and won in Paris before, so I think some of that pressure is kind of alleviated, right? You've been there, done that. That was actually the fight that he knocked out Tai Tuivasa. So I think Gane uses his movement, his kicks, his hands. I think he pieces him the fuck up on the feet, and I think he finishes him in round 3. To be honest, so I'm going to be sprinkling some. I think I saw like rounds starting at like round 3, 4, and 5. Even just to win in those spots, I think were really, really lovely prices. I think round 3 was like plus 900. Round 4 was like plus 1800, something stupid like that. So I'll be taking a couple shots on props too, even though I have a shit ton of money already invested. But yeah, max play on Gane. Y'all must have forgot. Bone Gamin is going to remind everybody that forgot, including the bookmakers. I don't know what the fuck this line is, but I'm happy to lay the absolute fucking hammer down on Cyril Gane to remind everybody that he's, especially we don't know what's going to happen with John Jones, whether he fights Stipe and retires, but one of the best heavyweights in the world. Sergey Spivak is not that guy. So yeah, max bet on Cyril Gane. I think he gets it done, and I think it's inside the distance.
And I'm sure you would rather watch Cyril Gane versus Tom Aspinall, huh?
Oh, come on.
That's next. That's what Dana confirmed. The winner of this fight gets the next one. But Spivak already fought Tom Aspinall.
Yeah.
And we saw how that went.
Yep.
Now I'm gonna align with you. I love that we're aligning because we didn't align so much last week. Yeah, man, I'm right there with you. And if you watch Sergey Spivak, he has elite top control. The guy is a ground and pound monster. I love everything about his game. I think he has a lot of upside. I think stylistically, he's a little bit out of his range in this fight. And when you look at it, how is he getting these takedowns? He's looking for clinches and he does inside trips. He's a judo player. You don't do that with somebody as elusive on the feet as Cyril Gane. Where Gane messed up against, Francis Ngannou and John Jones was single legs. I don't know if there was a double leg in there as well. Sergey doesn't do that. He's looking for trip takedowns. And I think that the judo game plan is not going to work as well with somebody as light on the feet as Cyril Gane. And it's funny that you say that because he was also kind of looking for it at the beginning of the Tom Aspinall fight. His coach was like, yeah, let's get the takedown. And he was going for it and ate an elbow. Boom, just right. And that was it. Fight over. Super quick fight. And I kind of see the same for Cyril Gane. And I'm excited to watch Cyril Gane versus Tom Aspinall the most. So we got John Jones and Stipe fighting later on in the year. You got the title eliminator bout coming up between the winner of this fight and Tom Aspinall. And then I don't know where Sergey Pavlovich fits in all this because it sounds like he's the backup fighter to the next main card. So I'm not too sure. I think he also probably, he's actually more deserving of the title shot than either of these two.
Yeah, but it's about John sticking around, right? He got to be excited. So I think that if Aspinall goes in there and knocks out Cyril Gane and says, "Oh, I did what you finished him quick, but you ain't knock his ass out," right? I think that's the fight that John will stay for is Tom Aspinall. I don't think he's interested in fighting.
I think you're right. I think that there's also a chance that after the Stipe fight, it's another one of those scenarios where it's a vacant belt and they probably throw in, Sergey Pavlovich in there somewhere. I just don't know where he fits in because I feel like the UFC market is not as behind him as they are with Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane, and John Jones. They want those fighters the most. But yeah, I align with you. I think in that fight with Francis Ngannou as well, the guy was an IQ away from becoming the heavyweight champion.
Yep.
He almost won that fight. And I don't know, man. I think that was a good look for him, even in the losing effort. I thought it was a good look. I know that the IQ was a little bit questionable, but it was also very questionable the Dontel Mays fight. Who rolls back for a heel hook? But Dontel Mays, I mean, he's low level, so Cyril was able to get away with that. I don't want him doing that here. I don't want him to try any of that. I just want him to stay striking, be light on the feet, get your knockout. I'm gonna assume round 3 as well. I think he touches him up and just frustrates the hell out of Spivak for the first couple of rounds. But yeah, those are the fights that we're going to talk about or that we've discussed. We're not going to go over every single fight. This next segment is reserved for underdogs. Do you have any underdogs on mind for this card?
Yeah, so let me go back to the list. So I love the Reese McKee pick. I know you talked about that fight. You're watching out for that fight on the prelims. I think that's a really good dog. I know I talked a lot of shit. I mean, it just really like the Gomes and Giannis fight. I heard those guys are friends too, and I hate fucking taking fights like that. Fuck, I'm gonna go with Rose, bro. I'm gonna go with Rose. Rose at plus 160 seems fucking crazy to me. I know Manon is a beast, but like you said, she has some holes too, and Rose is special. So I'm gonna assume and hope that Rose is on point. And she did all her meditation and all her fucking herbal joints already at the crib and all of that shit. And I'm gonna hope that she's on. And give me Rose at plus 160.
That's fair, man. Yeah, one of the underdogs that I like, I already discussed it. I got to go with Reese McKee just because I think that the line should be minus 110 a piece, not minus 170 plus 140. I think that's just a little bit too wide. I do think Lusa has upside, but if you're, it's all about pricing and mixed martial arts. And I think that this is one of those prices where you're getting one fighter at a discounted rate. I'm all about discounts and savings. So, sign me up for the underdog in that spot. The next one, this next segment is prop targets. Are there any props on this card that you're looking at?
Yeah, I like Cyril Gane inside the distance. I think, like I said, some of the later round props I think are way too wide. Maybe they're just expecting to kind of do the job early, but Cyril Gane likes to take his time, right? Stay on the outside. Like you said, frustrate his opponents. I think that was spot on. I like Cyril Gane inside the distance, round 3, round 4, round 5 props. What else? Bassarat inside the distance. I think you mentioned that. The round 1 stuff. I like that. Let's see. What else? Manolo. No, I'm sorry. Mogan Sharieri. I don't know. Listen, I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. The Frenchman versus the Italian. He's going against Manolo Zecchini. The sub prop. Last time I looked at the sub prop for Morgan, I think it was like plus 700. I think that is way too fucking wide. I think Morgan can absolutely expose Manolo on the ground and submit him. I think that's what he should do in this fight. So that sub prop I think is way too wide. So I'll go Bongamin inside the distance, Basharat inside the distance, maybe even early, right? Round 1 prop. And I'll go Morgan Sharieri by so.
Yeah, I don't know how to say a lot of these names either, man. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that the UFC knows what they're doing, throwing him on as the prelim headliner. I think that guy's pretty solid. I don't know about the pricing just because I don't really like backing those kind of favorites in debuting fights, but I do see the upside there for sure. Let's see. So some of the props that I was looking at, I like Manon Fiorot, and we'll go with split decision. I know that you took the Rose side as like the underdog spot, but I think I think Rose can make this fight competitive. But I like the split decision. I think that it can play out close, but with it being in France, I think that one of the fighter has a little bit more of the benefit to win a split decision than the other. So for those reasons, Fior via split decision. I'm looking for it right now on fightodds.io. Finally got it there, but there is no split decision props listed, just decisions.
Hmm.
That's whack. But yeah, if I can get anything above like plus 600 on that, maybe plus 700, that's something that I would be.
Low?
I'm not sure what it would be at, to be honest. I think that they're expecting it to go to decision, but I think split prop is probably. I don't know. I'm assuming probably plus 700. I don't know though. I don't ever price these out. Yeah, I don't see it listed on here at all.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's one of the props I was looking at. What were you saying?
Oh, Manon by split plus 700 on DK.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Plus 700. It's
That's
not a
split or
bad
majority.
look, man.
Split or majority decision.
That's not a bad look. Another prop that I'm looking at, Cyril Gane in round 3.
Love it.
I just don't think that it's gonna. I do think Sergey Spivak can get a takedown. I just don't think that the fight is gonna be over shortly after. I do think that he can get majority minutes, but the guy hasn't ever been 5 rounds. So I think that, after he gets those takedowns, he's probably gonna gas himself out because he knows he's gonna have to finish. He doesn't want to go into the later rounds, and I think that's where Cyril probably flourishes and just drowns this guy. We saw him do it to Tai Tuivasa, who everybody thought was super tough as well. So I don't know, man. The guy has all the upside in the world. I think round 3 is just a sweet spot. But inside the distance, I don't know what that pays. I'm just probably going to lay off of anything that's, less than, I don't know, plus 150. He's probably favored to get it done inside the distance with it being 5 rounds. Those don't excite me. Gane wins in round 3 via KO plus 800. I wanted plus 1,000.
Gane ITD is minus 125.
Minus 125? Yeah, okay. DK, yeah. So, yeah, I'll pass there.
Yeah, take rounds 3, 4, and 5. Split up a half a unit or whatever. Take rounds 3, 4, and 5.
Man, I was going to do that with Max Holloway, and that guy gets it done like fucking hella early.
I had Max in the over 2.5 in that fight, bro. That was another bomb. I think it was like 3.5 units for me. It's crazy.
Bro, that's what I'm saying. MMA is wild sometimes, man. You just never know.
Like, why the fuck the zombie dude? Listen, let's save that for another day.
All right. We're going to wrap it up with the final segment of the show, and it's hot takes. Do you have any hot takes for this card?
I wish I was more prepared for this. I mean, I think Rose is, based on what Twitter's telling you or X is telling you, I think that Rose underdog pick is a hot take, but
it could be a prop. It could be something happens where, I don't know, Aspinall and Gane get into it. Could be whatever.
Yeah. You know what? You know what I'm gonna do? You know what I'm gonna do?
What you're gonna do?
God, I talk so much shit about this fucking guy too. I'm gonna go Volkan Ozdemir round one KO.
God damn it, man. That's fair though. That's fair.
That's the hottest of take. Please do not bet that. Nobody bet that shit, please.
That's fair though, because I mean he does have power, and while I'm on the Guskov side, that guy does keep his chin really high, and he wings. He's just open to just being clipped, but so is Volkan. I think that the fight just ends in round 1, but that's not a hot take. All right. So my hot take. Let me go through which ones I kind of already didn't discuss. I said Manon by split. That's pretty much a hot take. 0 in round 3, kind of a hot take. Let's see. Okay. We'll go with this is all, man, that's not a hot take either. I wish I was more prepared for this as well. These are the banners that YBB just has listed. But I'm going to go with Guskov, Bogan and Guskov to get the fight done via submission. Ooh. Fucking knockout. I know that that's his win equity, but the guy actually does have some great ground control and does have submissions on his resume. And even if he does get clipped, I think Volkan will probably follow him to the mat. And Bogdan, I mean, guy looks pretty solid on the mat. So I think if you're getting him at, let's see, what is submission paying for that? You can get plus 800. I like that.
Wait. Guskov by decision? By submission?
By submission, yeah.
I see
Bet online.
1,800.
Oh, plus 1,800.
Yeah.
Holy
shit. That's on DK.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's I was looking at the knockout prop. Yeah. Okay, so plus 1600. I was looking at knockout in round 2, but yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Jesus
that makes
Christ,
a lot
bro.
more sense.
Plus 1600.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's on Bet Online too. Yep, that's my hot take of the week. I'm gonna go that route. I think we have a good case of club and sub. Although the fight should probably end by knockout, I don't think that's too much of a hot take. I think that's pretty much expected to happen. So,
Yeah,
yep,
the fight
that's
to
it.
end the fight to end in round 1 is plus 100. So that tells you all you need to know
Plus
right
100. Yeah, that tells you everything you need to know, man. The books already know that this fight's pretty much going to end real soon. So, and I agree with that, but I'll go with submission just to be different. I expect to be wrong. I don't expect it to hit, but
now. I'm
fuck it.
betting I should know. Now that I have to know. So
Shit, man. That's all right. So yeah, that's gonna wrap up UFC. Patty will be back next week. I think it's UFC 295 or 294. I'm not too sure of the number just yet, but we got Israel Adesanya taking on Sean Strickland. I think the press conference is going to end up being more fun than the fight
yep.
itself. But that should be a more exciting fight card to talk about where there's actually names that we can actually break down. This one was a little bit iffy because it's more of a Cage Warriors card than a UFC card. A lot of debuting fighters. But I do think that if you're invested into fights and love fighting, I think that you're going to enjoy the fight card itself as a whole. I think there's great stylistic matchups. We're probably going to see a lot of finishes, and that Paris crowd is loud as hell. So I think it's going to be a fun card to watch as a fan. You know, as betting, it's just a little iffy just because of all the unknowns with new faces. But yeah, I'm a fan of fights. So, of course, I'm going to be up watching it. It starts early. So, y'all be prepared for that. If you can, please like this video, leave a comment. I look forward to bringing, fight predictions with Finesse moving forward, and looking forward to actually grabbing a name. We don't have a name just yet. We just started this. You know, it was out of the blue, to be honest. But if we can continue it, that'd be great. Yeah, guys, throw a like on the video. Finesse, I appreciate the help. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to close this podcast with.
Yeah, you mentioned they start early, so prelims start at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time, and then the main card starts at 3. So be aware of that. Saturday afternoon fights. Get your bets in Friday night, early Saturday morning, and yeah, get your popcorn ready. Not like YBB said, not a lot of name value, but expect a lot of finishes, a lot of exciting fights. So I'm hype as shit. Got a lot of units out, and let's make a shit ton of money, bro. I appreciate
Yeah,
you.
y'all make sure y'all follow Finesse on Twitter as well. He's got a max play already listed. You can read the description in his tweet as well. I'm sure if you follow us, you probably follow Finesse. So yeah. Anyways, guys, I appreciate everyone who tuned in tonight. I saw some viewers in the chat. Thanks a lot. We'll be back next week, and maybe with a name this time. We'll see. See y'all
Maybe.
next week. Good luck on your bets, and yeah, peace out.